Hey y'all, it's Maritime in America again, a podcast where we're charting America's offshore stories. It's the only podcast that highlights mariners' perspectives on issues facing the offshore community and the greater U.S. maritime community. I'm your host, Aaron Smith of the Offshore Marine Service Association. Each Friday, I'll bring you the Offshore Briefing, a quick rundown of the week's notable developments, updates, and news you need to know in the offshore space. In addition, we'll feature a special guest from the maritime world, bringing a mariner's voice and real-world perspectives straight to the show. Joining me are my co-hosts, Ashley and Angelle, where we'll strengthen the maritime American mariner's voice by diving into the people, policies, and powerful currents shaping the U.S. maritime community. Whether you're on deck or at your desk, we're glad you're here. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Maritime in America. I got to say, I'm going to introduce my co-host here, but I got to say, I'm so excited about this episode. You're going to hear it in a minute. We had Tony Munoz, head of Maritime Executive. It is a great episode. Ashley and Angelle, welcome y'all. How are you all
Hello
doing?
there. Just great. Another day with my headphones. I tried without them, but my ADD was too bad. This keeps me locked in.
We need to
Tony is adorable. He is such a great salesman. I think that's what I learned. I was expecting to hear about the magazine, right? And
Yeah.
what magazines do and blah, blah, like that. It was not. He hit it on talking about the characters of the industry and just his knowledge of it all was really cool.
I know when I pitched this, I could tell you were kind of like, okay.
I just was like, I don't know if that's the message because we've been saying that we want to talk about people, but he is people in the industry. And I'm glad I didn't listen to you. He's proud of everyone,
Yeah.
I think I walked away being just kind of proud of the industry so much, even though I'm not in a maritime professional myself. I just am a support character, but I walked away feeling proud of it because of how proud he was of being able to interview these people and talk about everything. And it just was really cool. It was a cool perspective.
Exactly. And that's why I wanted to have him on.
And he's so adorable. I want to go eat Italian with him. And I'm so hungry.
It is. Hey, I completely agree. It's a great episode. You're gonna love it. Hope everyone sticks around. It's great. There's some great stories from the past in it. So everyone, take a listen. Hope you enjoy. All right, and now we welcome our special guest, Tony, with Maritime Executive. Tony, thank you so much for joining us.
A pleasure. Happy to be here. I've been following your industry for so many years, and just watching it grow has been pretty terrific to be a part of it.
Well, it's great to have you, and thank you for not only watching it grow, but for reporting on its growth, and for always, making sure that y'all always reach out and include us, and make sure that when there's something y'all are writing on, that you make sure that you come and ask. I wouldn't say ask the expert because I'm never the expert, but at least you ask us, and I can point you in the direction of an expert.
Right.
So thank you so much for doing that. But tell everyone, introduce yourself to people. We've done a little bit of an introduction for you, but introduce yourself.
My name is Tony Munoz, and I'm the editor-in-chief and founder of the Maritime Executive. We started in 1996 on a song and a prayer. We basically said, we saw other publications come through. We saw what the industry needed, and I'm an avid reader, so I read everything that I could put my hands on about maritime, and I just felt like there was something missing. And all the covers had ships or boats or, and then maybe a small picture of an executive in an article, a small article. I said, something's missing. There's a lot of people that run this business that are low profile. And I have to say, over the years, digging them out, getting them on my cover has not been easy. They're not lining up. They're not lining up to get on the cover. I have to go and dig them out, and some are easy and some are very shy, and so it's been interesting because my posture on executives is that they lead the industry. They have so much power in our industry over the unions, over the shipbuilding, over everything that we do. And then I've had the great pleasure in the offshore industry to meet Bill O'Malley, Todd Hornbeck, not never met any of the Schwest, Larry Rigdon, and some of those people that really drove the industry. And in a period of time when I first met Bill O'Malley, I had no idea how big the industry was. I was concentrating on marine transportation,
Mhm.
container ships, tankers, and all of that. So I went to New Orleans, met Bill O'Malley, very impressive gentleman. His EVP at the time was Larry Rigdon, and he took us out to Commander's Palace and some great restaurants, and it was my intro into New Orleans. And I said, "Wow, this is an awesome city. The food is great, the music's great, the people are awesome." And then I had a chance to go into Fourchon and see all the boats stacked at the time, but a lot of boats moving in and out, and I was impressed.
It is impressive, and you're right. I mean, let me take two things from there that I really want to focus on, and that one, our industry is in many cases understated, and that doesn't help us because we're out of sight, out of mind just by its nature. We operate over the horizon.
Right.
That is hard, but we definitely have the same problem in getting executives in the forefront. So we completely understand where you're coming from. But then also that I think oftentimes the offshore industry does get kind of forgotten about. You think about brown water, you think about
Yeah.
the international shipping, but we're kind of in that intermix that we're not brown water, we're not blue water. We're just kind of the brackish water. So I completely understand what you're saying there. But yeah, the all the folks from Tidewater, not just Bill O'Malley or Larry Rigdon, but also Damon Bankston or all of the Labords.
The Laborde family, very strong.
Yeah, just some great that has been a great company. Even down through today. Bart Reynolds is now their representative on our board. So through all of them, some great executives there. But so, how did you get into you said that you started Maritime Executive with an effort to focus on the executives within the shipping industry. What had you been doing prior, and how did you know about our industry or parts of our industry?
Well, I grew up in that. I grew up in San Diego, and I had an opportunity to join a steamship line, which I thought was very sexy. Steamship line, cargo
Mhm.
ships,
Yeah.
ports. And our offices were down on Wilshire Boulevard. And so that was all in the financial district and everything. And I thought I was pretty hot stuff. I got to wear a suit, and you know, uh, they didn't pay me anything, but I got to feel like I was part of an industry, and I really was excited about being in the industry. So from there, I went to an NVOCC. Didn't like it. From there, I went to Mayflower Van Lines in their international division. I had a lot of fun there, but I missed the ships. So when I got back into the industry, I did it in San Francisco, and I did it in the harbor services for Crowley Maritime.
Okay.
And about that time, Crowley Maritime pulled out of San Francisco because of labor issues, and I was left with with a couple of tugboat companies, one of them being American Navigation, and then there was Bay and Delta across the harbor, and there was Sanders Towing up in the Carquinez Straits. And I thought I'd really came to where I wanted to be. I thought moving
Mhm.
ships in and out of the harbor and moving oil was a lot of fun. So then I started the Maritime Executive. And I think one of our first covers was Foss Maritime, and then we
Okay.
went to Arco, and then
Uh-huh.
my partner at the time, Jeff Mudgett, brilliant guy, really a lawyer, master mariner. He's the one who kind of developed the concept of what the maritime executive should be. And he and I put it together, and our first cover was Foss Maritime, and then we went to Arco, and our third cover was Bill O'Malley for Tidewater. I remember Larry Rigdon when we first went into the building, and we met with Larry, and we were getting ready to go upstairs and meet Bill O'Malley. Larry simply looked at us, at Jeff and myself, and said, "Don't mess this one up, guys." And there were a few other words involved, but we went upstairs and we met Bill O'Malley, and then Bill said, you know, you need to go down to Fourchon. You need to go down and see
Yeah.
the boats. You got to see what we do." And I had no idea. And I was just absolutely amazed that the structure and the infrastructure that was
Yeah.
down there. And they put us on a helicopter and we flew out to rigs and got to see. We didn't land on any of them, but we got to take a look and see
Mhm.
what the environment was like, and watch a lot of boats come in and out with
Yeah.
supplies and stuff of that nature. I was extremely impressed with the industry.
Look, I mean, I'm totally biased here, but it's my contention that you do not understand the breadth of the U.S. maritime industry if you haven't been to Fujian. Just that you will not see a more concentrated epicenter of U.S. vessels than you
Right.
will there. And that's nothing to talk about, San Diego or San Francisco or the Delta or, Norfolk or New Bedford or any of those other places. But you're not going to see the number of boats and the number of mariners that you're going to see in Fujian.
And how
So,
you see it. I mean, you see people living, and then you see a ginormous OSV come right past it, like,
uh-huh.
past their
Yeah.
house. I think that's the craziest thing down there is the infrastructure and the people living there and the size of these vessels, and it's not like a regular
Mhm.
port, like when you're in Baltimore or Tampa or something, it's just totally different.
Yeah.
Well, check this out. So, I think Todd Hornbeck was getting a vessel delivered, right?
Oh, those are
And
cool to watch.
yeah, but we went down to, I guess they had gone out for a test, and they came back up and they brought it up a river, sort of estuary, very small. The dolphins were chasing fish up the river, and we're sitting there in the middle of nowhere waiting for this vessel to come in. And it came in, and we got on board, and the vessel had just come off of sea trials. And it was awesome in this sort of flat bayou area.
Yeah.
And here's
Yeah.
this massive green vessel, and I'm like, wow. And that was my entree between Fourchon and seeing this vessel come in, and then being um, taken up to the bridge and seeing what these mariners do, and
Mhm.
how they do it. The big vessels, small crews, until they start bringing out supplies, and then the crews grow. But it's pretty amazing industry.
You know, I remember someone I worked with talked about taking people down to Fujian and talked about it like it was touring open houses for real estate. And I don't think he understood that how this industry, and I guess it's because I came from DC and I dealt with all of these issues on paper and in memos and in that way, that I thought I understood the industry, but I didn't till I got down to Fujian and walked the decks and went to the wheelhouse. And so I completely understand what you're saying there about you really need to get in, and it's so interesting and so exciting and gives you such a better perspective when you
It
do get
does.
to go up to the bridge or in an engine room and see just the amazing technology that we have in this industry.
Not only that, but the crew coordination. The crews
Yeah.
are so well trained, and they know their jobs, and they stay. And then I just thought it was like watching a ballet. And when these guys are
Mhm.
working the ropes, and connecting to their oil rigs, and working what they had to do there. And yeah, it's I've never been a mechanical person. I've always been kind of I'd rather read than I would go out and, work on the car, with my buddies. So I was a good surfer and we all surfed, but I was a bookworm and they were like mechanics. So it kind of the same thing. Today
Yeah.
I went
Yeah.
down and I saw the oil fields and, saw the talent that's there, the way these captains run their crews, the
Yeah.
first mates. Everybody has a job to do, and they do it well.
They do.
And
They do.
and they get paid, I think, fairly well. But
Yeah.
when I was down there, somebody would jump from one company to another company for an extra 20 bucks or $200 a paycheck. So
Oh,
there was
yeah.
a lot of fluidity back there, but
And that's the thing about AMSA. And, sometimes people wonder about why AMSA works like how they work. You got to understand, we're sailing all out of the same port for the same clients. We can't
right,
help all over each other. So,
right.
you know, it's constantly an effort of managing and getting fierce competitors to come together a few times a year and to come together on a few different issues. And it's not always the easiest task, but it's a fun one, and it's great to watch these competitors come
Well,
together.
especially you coming out of DC and getting into the fire, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
It's vice versa. We go to DC and talk to the people up there, and they just nod their heads. Sure. Yeah, Jones Act's important. Sure. You know, uh, da 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 da. And,
Yeah.
sure. They don't get it. I'm sorry, but
Mhm.
I've wasted so much time. Sorry, Congressman, but you need to learn what U.S. maritime is about.
That's you
I mean, you
you
need to
gotta get on board.
understand that we have 96,000 miles of coastline in the United
Yeah.
States. And there are tugboats and barges and ships that are U.S. flagged that are moving along the coastlines. And if you really want to see something very impressive, you go to Fourchon and it
Yeah.
just blow your mind. We're talking about a $6 billion industry. Those are big numbers for
Yeah.
manufacturing, shipbuilding, port infrastructure. Those are big numbers. And then the industry produces about $42 billion in like over 180,000 jobs in steel and manufacturing, fabrication of, and just port revitalization. They spend so much money down there, and nobody ever hears about the emphasis
No.
about the offshore industry, and that's just always confused me why Washington doesn't understand how big that industry is and how important that industry is and to everything that makes America run.
It
I
it
think it goes
really
to what
does.
both you and Aaron have both said. It's hard to we kind of are behind the scenes, right? Not only our vessels
Right.
and the equipment, but also our people. They don't want the fame and the glory. They want to do their job, support people, get it done. And sometimes, I mean, when you say the squeaky wheel gets the oil, that's what I tell my children all the time. We're not the squeaky wheel. We need to be now, but we weren't.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Aaron, I'd like
No,
to point out I got that saying right.
and that's good, Ashley. You're absolutely correct. We forget about
Mhm.
that segment of the industry. It's offshore. Nobody even thinks about it. I mean, the big push over the last couple of years has been offshore wind,
Mhm.
and we track that quite a bit. But it's not. It's they're not going to support it anymore. The government isn't under this administration,
Under this
but
administration, yeah.
under this administration, things may change. But we dealt with a couple of wind type companies with our magazine, and um, the complexity of taking windmills out there and setting them up and and the energy it provides for like the mid Atlantic
Yeah.
gets a lot of that. Northeast gets a lot of that. But what you guys do down there is essential to the overall economy. That
You
is
know
our energy source.
Mhm.
Well, I will say look, I've been an offshore wind supporter since 2012, so I was an early
Right.
adopter in that industry and continue to be a big supporter of it for the jobs that it can provide for the maritime side. But, another benefit, just kind of a selfish benefit, has been that it has exposed another set of the country to our industry. I don't know how many times I have seen the article, and it's always the same article. When a lift boat pulls into one of those small, the first time a lift boat goes into New Bedford or Norfolk or any of these other places on up
Right.
mid Atlantic or New England, there's always a story in the local paper. And what is this thing? What is this thing?
Right. Right.
So I think it has been very good in that aspect because it shows who we are and what our industry is. But I would like to get back and appreciate all of the lauding of our industry that you've done. But let's talk about Maritime Executive and about you. So and I think I kind of know the answer to this, but what has kept you writing about the maritime industry and the offshore industry since the late 90s?
I think it's a sexy industry. I think it's just
Agreed. Agreed. Don't call me
just
nerd.
the
Don't call
boats
me
and the
nerd, you too.
people. I think the owners are just different. They're all entrepreneurs and they, have a vision. A lot of them come through families. I
Uh-huh.
mean, that's an old wine industry.
Yep.
And there was a book written a few years ago. I forget what it was, but the fellow was talking about how the industry had begun.
Yep.
And I can't, I don't remember his
Rise of the
name
Cajun
or
Mariner.
what is it?
Rise of the Cajun Mariner.
There you go. That's it. And, yeah, so, yeah, to me, it's like you have these entrepreneurial businesses that
Mhm.
are building these boats, and they're not cheap. And the vicissitudes in the oil market are pretty phenomenal. I've
Yeah.
seen companies go out of business because they get laid up for, months and
Yep.
months
Yeah.
and the crews are dispersed, and then all of a sudden energy starts rising again, and you've got to find crews and competent, and you got to get your vessels unstacked and get them back out there. And but I think over the last, say, 20 years we've not seen those downturns. I think people are beginning to realize that us can support itself,
Mhm.
and there's enough energy there to take the vicissitudes out of the marketplace. I mean, what used to happen was the Saudis or OPEC would, you know, decide that they're going to quit production or they're going to increase production and impact the price of oil. Well, the United States at that time was very vulnerable to all of that. And I think the investment by a lot of the entrepreneurs in the offshore industry, I think that the government has understood that offshore is fairly safe outside of the Deepwater Horizon. That was an aberration of, it was just, it was a bad situation. And,
Yeah.
but we've recovered from that. And I think, prospectively, people understand that the offshore industry worked hard to protect its people, ships, and to make sure there's no oil spills out there. So
Yep.
I think they've done a magnificent job.
Well, so you mentioned characters in this industry, and we definitely got ours. Who's your favorite character that you've experienced in the offshore industry?
I actually, I would say my most impressive was Bill O'Malley. We
Mhm.
came up to meet him, and we walked down this sort of dark hallway with lots of really nice pictures, and then we opened the door to his office, big doors, and he was sitting at his desk, and there was a little tiny lamp, and that was it. He was sitting in darkness reading, and I remember that we sat there and my partner Jeff and Mudgett, and he goes, "So you want to put Tidewater on your cover? So what's the story going to be?" And Jeff Mudgett says, "The sun never sets on Tidewater." And he goes, "I like it. I like it." So then I'm sitting there about ready to go into my sales pitch, because I'm a salesman, right?
Yeah.
I got to speak. I got to say
Yeah.
something. So I started to say something, and my partner put his hand on my not shoulder but wrist, like, we're done here. So we spent like 5 minutes with Mr. O'Malley. What do you want to do? The sun never sets. Good. I support it. Let's do it. And we busted our butts on that edition. I think it was the largest edition we ever put out. It was thick as could be. The covers were thick as could be, and it had his face, and that was it. Just his face, and there was nothing behind it on that cover. And we thought, it's our magazine, so we're going to make it any way we want to.
Yeah.
And we sent a bunch of copies down to Bill O'Malley, and Bill O'Malley was at some meeting in New Orleans, and somebody held up the edition and said, "Here is Bill O'Malley on the cover of the Maritime Executive." Nobody knew who we were, but it was impressive. And so that was very exciting, because I would say he was one of the most interesting people.
Interesting. Good.
I have to say that Larry Rigdon
Yeah.
was one of my favorites. He just had that desire to create his own company. He had worked with the French company Bourbon.
Uh-huh.
I was involved with Larry as he was starting his fleet, and he would take me over to China with him to watch the French build their fleet. It was a very sort of impressive time for me. I was leaving the steamship line business, and I was being absorbed by this offshore industry and what they were doing in China and what they were doing in the United States. It was very impressive, and the technology that was being built and the amount of boats that were being built and the investment. Yeah, I would say Rigdon led the way for me, and Bill O'Malley was my top executive, and then the Geis brothers, they worked for Larry, and then they went
Uh-huh.
out and started their own company. So
Yeah.
it's the evolution, and it seems that the families seem to remain the same.
There's a lot of that.
And the Geis Offshore has been really fun to watch the past few years, not the
Mhm.
past, like, 10 years. They've
Yeah.
really expanded and are in all different, areas. Like, that's been a really cool company to watch.
It
Yeah,
has.
it is.
They've taken a lot of interesting. I don't know if they have two sister ships. I seriously don't.
I know because I'm helping them with some of their security plans,
They
but I will not digress and tell you.
they have bought vessels from every different company out there and are making them
And it
work.
just seemed to be ahead of the game and, like, really hustling and going in different
Space,
directions, which is so
wind.
cool to watch.
Yeah.
Well, Billy Geist was a very smart guy,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
Billy, it was introduced to him by Larry Rigdon, and as a matter of fact, when Katrina hit New Orleans, I was sitting in a casino in New Orleans, getting ready to meet with Larry Rigdon on Monday. So I flew in on Friday. And he goes, "Do you want to go to the game? I think we're in town for a preseason."
Yeah.
And so he said, "Do you want to go to the game?" And I go, "No, let's go hang out and eat. I'm in New Orleans. I'd rather eat than watch football." So off we went. And I got to meet the Geis family through them. Not only are they good looking guys, but they're very, very smart.
I'm gonna put the question to Ashley and Angelle. Ashley, Angelle, who are your favorite characters in the industry that have been?
Oh my gosh. Well, I've been with AMSA for almost
Uh-huh.
14 years now, so I've seen quite a few. But you know who comes to mind immediately?
Who?
Is Willard Robeson.
That's a good one.
He literally comes to mind immediately. Willard Robeson he was with Secor, goodness gracious, I don't even know how long.
Um, Decades, yeah.
And then he's been with CMAR, another phenomenal company.
Mhm.
Loves Secor. They're pretty. CMAR is another under the cover one, and their executive Daryl Plaisance is such an interesting, understated, just smart, like not afraid to say what he means. I just really respect him. And Willard works for them, and he, for the 14 years that I've been here, although I did talk to him on the phone yesterday and he did mention it, he usually tells me how much longer until he retires. He's been saying that
Yeah.
for 14 years. And
Yeah.
and I wanted to punch him in the face the first time I met him. Like, I was like, there's no way I can work with this guy. He literally is one of my favorite human beings. Turns out that's how everyone feels about him. You just got to get past that hump. He's just a character. He's so smart. He knows everything. He says the funniest things. He's a very, very appreciative, I think is why he's just such an endearing human being.
He is.
But so knowledgeable. And when I have questions about things, I'll call him and ask him or shoot him an email. That's who comes to mind.
Angelle, how about you? What's your favorite character in things?
So mine it's tied between 3 people, but I'll just say one. And he's been a guest on the show before, Mr. Jeremy Bailey. I think he's really funny and he's very intelligent and he's very competitive, so he keeps me on my feet as well.
And who's he with?
He's with Spock Energy.
Oh, okay.
So he's on the supplier side.
Yeah.
And he just has done everything, knows everything, is a hustler. He's just awesome. Yeah, we've had him on board again. I mean, on our podcast.
Interesting guy.
Yeah,
someone who just fell into our
the
industry.
guy from Seabulk. What was his name?
Seymour.
No, Seabulk. He was
Yes.
Seabulk bought
Yeah.
that was Fabricant. But prior
Charles
to that,
Fabricant, yeah.
prior to Fabricant, there was the
I
reason
actually
we
have
had
it on my list.
who was he? He
Well,
just
so
passed.
need to look,
He
but
just
yeah.
passed recently.
Mhm. I mean, I have my computer open. I can look because it'll drive me crazy.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
he's the one who built the first tractor tug in America, which is why we came out to Fort Lauderdale to see this tractor tug. There was nothing like it in the nation.
Mhm.
And he had built this tractor tug, and then he bought his company went public, and he bought a bunch of offshore vessels in the Gulf of Mexico, but also throughout the world. And the vicissitudes in the market, the oil dropped down to 40, and he
Yep.
lost everything. You know, he
Not
was,
Norma Call, right?
huh?
Norma
No.
Call.
Norma Call was crew boats.
Okay.
No, I'm trying to
This is
think.
going to drive me crazy.
But he was the first owner of
Yeah.
Seabulk.
Yeah.
And I remember he had polio, and
Oh, wow.
and
I don't know.
I'll come up
No.
with it. Anyway,
Andy Brawninger.
now he worked for the guy. He worked for the guy.
Seabulk, actually, we just so the credenza behind me is actually, it's one of the coolest things that we have, and we're showing it to people now. It is just stuffed of pictures of the vessels, and we actually I think it was the Seabulk California. They were all state names. All the vessels were state names. I think it was, we just highlighted on our social medias a picture of the Seabulk. I think it was California. I'd have to go look. It's a great historical record of it. But you're right. I love not only the historical vessels of it, but I also love the histories of the people.
Oh, yeah.
We have an award that we provide every year, and we provided it to, we named it after my predecessor, Bob Ilario. And so it's the Bob Ilario Lifetime Achievement Award. And the first time we gave it was we had all kind of realized that Bob wasn't doing well. And we decided we needed to do something for him. In typical Bob fashion, he said, okay, yeah, you can give me a Lifetime Achievement Award. He didn't tell us that a few weeks later, the Coast Guard Foundation was also giving him a Lifetime Achievement Award. So he just wanted multiple Lifetime Achievement Awards.
Hey, why not? Why not?
Exactly.
And he said, I want something small and intimate. This is what he tells me.
Yeah.
And he sent me a list of like 50 people outside of the board, the 21-person board member we had.
Yes. So, and I continue to cherish those dinners where we've had about those, because I have learned so much about this industry from those dinners. So it's a great part that we've had.
I just thought of the name Eric Vida.
Okay.
Do you remember him?
Yeah.
Eric Vida?
name doesn't sound familiar to me.
Eric
Yes.
Vita
No,
started. He started Seaball.
Seabolt.
Okay.
Vita Marine was the largest tugboat company in
Uh-huh.
Florida.
Oh, yes.
In
Yes.
Florida, and so they had built the Broward, the first tractor tug in America. So the whole impetus behind the Maritime Executive was the Exxon Valdez,
Okay.
and tanker escorts were being demanded up
Yeah.
and down the
Yep.
U.S. West Coast. And so in San Francisco, it was a real big deal.
Of course.
You come into the bay, you've got to go sea speed sometimes under the Golden Gate, and then you got to put on the brakes because there's Alcatraz Island, and
Mm-hmm.
then on either side is a bridge, the Oakland Bay Bridge or the Carquinez Bridge. The Carquinez is a little further up, but you have to get through the Golden Gate fast,
Yeah.
and the confluence of the tides are pretty dynamic. So anyway, we heard that that the tanker escorts were taking off, and we really thought that it would mean the entire West Coast. Coast Guard said no, it had to be Valdez, and that's all they were concerned
Yeah.
about, and getting the oil out of there. And who cared about the West Coast? So San Francisco did, and San Francisco, California did. And I listened to all the environmentalists. I listened to all the pilots and tugboat operators, and all the things that went into developing a arrival of a tanker in. Sorry about that. Arrival of the tanker in San Francisco, which is a very hard port to be in. And all the oil refineries were up the river in Carquinez, although there was Chevron right through the Golden Gate. And but getting ships in and out was a very difficult task. So I listened to this offshore group, this environmental group, for about 6 months, and then they dispersed. And all that intellect about how to move ships in and out of the harbor was gone. And so I said, well, I need more of that. And
Yeah.
so I started the magazine, and we pursued it. And very fortunately came to the third edition and got to see the offshore industry, which was impressive. And just so many ways. Just the people were impressive. Then the boats were impressive. And the work that they did at the oil
Yeah.
rigs was phenomenal. And who knew that there was all this piping underwater from the rigs to, and then I had the opportunity to meet a dive company that took care of all those pipings. Who knew? Who knew?
Yeah. No, it's the reference I use when I am in DC and I'm trying to talk about it, I think there is an assumption that with these like a floating offshore platform, and we were just getting our last guest, Sean Hogue, to talk about this, was that, I think a lot of people outside of our industry think that those floating assets, those floating offshore, those rigs or platforms, as people call them, that the wells they serve, or the well, I think in a lot of people's mind, is just right under it. And so I have to explain to people in DC that, hey, if you put one of those projects, if you put Perdido from Shell, or if you put one of, L Log's Animal House, or Delta House, or on top of the Capitol, that the subsea infrastructures that it services will extend past BWI Airport and Dulles Airport out.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that that's these fields that are massive. So I think that's
Yeah.
really interesting. But I think I was going to ask you a question about, we've talked about how the industry has changed. And so I wanted to ask you how the industry has stayed the same. But I think what's interesting about that then is that you talked about tractor tugs, and the tractor tug kind of a push to have a tractor tug requirement after Valdez. And we're
Right.
seeing that now again after Baltimore.
Oh, Yeah.
And so I think that's interesting how that's come around. But what other factors of the industry have you seen that have stayed constant?
Certainly the inland waterways.
Uh-huh.
People
Mhm.
forget, yeah, we have 96,000 miles of coastline.
Yeah.
We also have like 25,000 miles of infrastructure and
Yeah.
riverways, and they're not all the Mississippi. There smaller
Oh,
areas
yeah.
there, and they move a lot of grain, a lot of cargoes up and down. When you see a push boat pushing, 5 or 6 or 7 floating barges down the
Yeah.
river, it's pretty amazing.
Uh-huh.
I frankly wouldn't wanna be on it. It'd be the most boring thing that ever it goes so slow. I remember when I was in San Francisco, we were gonna do an escort out of the Bay Area, out of the Carquinez down to the Golden Gate, and, I said, "Sure, I'll take the ride." It's so boring, so boring. He's just sitting, just like, "Okay, can we move this a little quicker?" I might have dinner, plans. I mean, it just moves so slow, but,
Oh, it does. It does.
that's the way they have to move the cargoes and up and down the riverways, up and down the coastline. Yeah, it's a pretty amazing industry overall. But I think the offshore industry by far is the most intriguing. It has the most cowboys out there. It has the entrepreneurs. They
Uh,
will build and spend what they think is right. The new technologies that are willing to invest into it to make it right. Yeah, so I think the industry is well represented. I think that the work that's done on the offshore, I wish the people in DC could understand the importance of U.S. offshore. I really do. And I know that this administration said that they were wanted to have the Ships Act and they were going to build more ships and more offshore vessels and more just tugboats and whatever they needed. But when it comes down to the bottom line, who's going to come up with the money?
yeah. No, it's
Government isn't. The government isn't. They're not going to start building boats and ships and tugboats and barges. They're not going to do that. The industry has to do that.
it always seems, and I'm always so surprised at how DC looks at the maritime industry because they want more shipyards and they want more mariners. It's like, well, guys, someone has to put an order into a shipyard and someone
Right.
has to employ a mariner.
But
That
y'all
person
keep saying
doesn't.
DC. Y'all have to remember all of these Gulf Coast, East Coast, West Coast states that operate have representatives that
You
go
are
to DC.
correct.
Why aren't they
You are
advocating for us?
you are correct.
Well, I
They
think
do.
they do, but
They
the
do. They do.
overwhelming philosophy up there is that, I mean, listen, the Jones Act is critically important, and they
Mhm.
all know
Yep.
it. They all
Until
understand.
it quote unquote costs too much money for someone.
Yeah.
This is why
Yeah,
I
but
don't work on Capitol Hill, and this is why you
Yes.
can't make
Yeah,
me a
this is
lobbyist.
why we have to keep Ashley away from elected
Yes, because
people.
I cannot keep my mouth shut. I just am too talk to the point.
no, that's good. That's good. You need somebody like that. I've gone up there with the Salims.
Yeah.
And, and I can think of 20 well-known names, and they sit there and they nod.
I
Mhm.
know. I'm like, no, don't
Mhm.
nod. Let's.
Yeah.
I know.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, it's really important to American jobs in shipbuilding and that we have a U.S. Maritime and Jones Act supports that.
And then they
And,
say, "Oh, don't worry, I have a
I got
fundraiser next
some, yeah.
week."
When we get some distance between us and the current time, I'll tell some stories about that too. Can't
so
tell them yet, but we'll have to tell them later.
So when I would go up there and I would explain to them, I'm a Jones Act advocate. I
Yep.
mean, I have an international business.
Uh-huh.
And all of my revenue, the vast majority, 80% of my revenue comes from overseas. Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
That's can't believe that.
And manufacturers, they were selling parts
Mhm.
and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And but I support Jones Act. And I would write and I've written many essays on the Jones Act and how important it is and why it's important. And I remember there was a foreign boat that was down in the Gulf of Mexico, and they reflagged it and took it up to Australia. I'm now up to Alaska, and it was a foreign boat, and it came into Alaska, and they were going to let it work the oil field up there.
Yep.
And
The
and I
Escopeta.
wrote huh?
The
Escopeta.
Escopeta.
And I wrote a essay called "The Jones Act is Dead at 108." And people were like, "Oh, is that tongue in cheek?" I go, "No, not really. But if you read it, you'll understand what I'm talking about. We're
Mhm.
gonna do all these waivers on boats,
Yeah.
and we have similar boats that are sitting at the dock. That's wrong." And
Here, here.
yeah, here, and I think that the investment that the Americans have put in for the Jones Act, I think it's an important deal. You know what you were talking about, some of the people in the industry, and although he is not um, but he's a tugboat guy, is Tom Crowley.
Mhm.
Crowley organization is a first-rate organization. I knew Tom Crowley Sr. I had worked
Okay.
for
Yeah.
him, and when they moved from San Francisco into Oakland, they had a big party, right? So I grabbed a couple of operations guys that worked for NYK, and we went over to the party. Free food, free drink, and we got to meet Tom Crowley Sr., right? The founder. And he was surrounded by bankers and real estate people. And I
Mhm.
introduced myself and Jeff Broderick, who worked for NYK, and he goes, finally, he gave us a big hug. And he said, finally, some industry people here. And you know, so, but he was pretty cool. And then young Tom, Tom Crowley now, came in. Um, and he's done a marvelous job building a fleet and building an oil infrastructure of boats and ATBs and tugs and barges. He's invested greatly in America, and so those are the kind of companies that I love to support.
I do got to say, it is so interesting that we have, there are so many families in our industry. We had,
Yeah.
we used to work with Mark Sanford. He was one of the people who represented us, and he took us around. At Mark Sanford, former congressman from South Carolina, former governor from
Okay.
South Carolina, took around some executives around the hill one day, and he was just, we had, I forgot who he was with, what group he was with, but like there were three people in his group that were the thirds, and he was just like, I can't believe this. I can't believe there are so many people in this industry that are third generation, fourth generation. Crowley is one you forget about them even because they get they get overlooked for like the Candies with the fourth generation and the Hornbecks with the fourth generation and
And
the Labords with the third generation. So there's just so many of them, and I think that's so interesting that our industry has been able to preserve itself like that. But kind of on the subject of longevity, you have been writing in this industry since the 90s. What what keeps you coming back to it?
I I just when I first went to LA and I got to be in the steamship line business, I said, this is my industry. This is where I'm going to be." And then I've transitioned into so different parts of it. And when we started the Maritime Executive, 96, we did it because um, I felt there was something lacking. I felt that executives kind of hid in their boardrooms and spent all this money, and we needed to hear what they had to say about where we came from, where they are now, and what the future looks like. And so I had a great opportunity to do 6 editions a year since 1996. So many different executives from around the world, educators from the World
Mhm.
Maritime School, and
Yeah.
from all those people and environmental types. Um, just there's so many aspects of the industry, and when Americans, when the political system said we need to cut the emissions out of ships. You know, I first started in Long Beach, California.
Uh-huh.
That was my, and the ships would come in, they would just sit there and emit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the highest rate of cancer was on the Palos Verdes Peninsula in a small town there, mostly Portuguese. And they would get the emissions, the
Yeah.
emitting,
It's
all the ships,
right
and they were
downwind.
coming down with all kinds of cancer. And so New York, the LA Times wrote a big essay on it. And within a year, they were plugging in ships.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
shutting down those emissions because people listened. And the impact of in an urban area like that with commercial cargo ships is devastating to human beings, especially if there's no control of the emissions from those ships. And of course, they burned dirty fuel back then. So it
Oh,
was the
yeah.
worst fuel they could burn. We've upgraded the fuel, we've upgraded the ships, we've upgraded the technology. Ships have gotten bigger because port
Mhm.
stops cost a lot of money, tugboats and, dock time and all
Yep.
that. So ships have gotten much bigger. Like, what is it? The Abraham Lincoln carries some massive amount of cargo.
It
It's
is.
just, yeah.
It is absolutely staggering how much there is. Well, you have been just so generous with your time today,
Oh,
and
wait,
great.
Oh, thank
Aaron,
you.
Yes. What do you
I
got?
have one more question. So the Maritime Executive, it's pretty much over like 3 decades old now, and you've
Hard to
evolved
believe.
it. Yeah, me and the magazine aren't too far apart. Um,
Right.
the
Me neither.
you've evolved it from a magazine to you moved it online and also a podcast. So I did a little bit of research and saw that a lot of magazines from the 90s only shifted to online, like they aren't doing the print anymore. But you
It's
still,
expensive. It's very expensive, Angela,
yeah.
you
So
know?
what made you keep doing that? And also, this is two-parter. Um, what
That's a great
platform do you
question.
think reaches your audience more?
So I'm at a party in Sausalito and early on in the magazine. And this party had a bunch of high-tech people there. So I'm talking to these two young high-tech guys out of the Silicon Valley. And I told them I have a magazine. And they said, well, is it online? They go, you better get it online because that's the way things are moving. And so I did. I did once a month. I put out a newsletter, mostly press releases, but
Mhm.
people ate it up. They went there. And then over time, we did Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now we do every day. And I mean, that's thanks to Paul Benecki and Alan Jordan and so many other people that run that operation for me. Every day they come up with news. We have a lot of contributors. We probably have in the realm of 15 to 20 contributors that help us with specialized stories like maritime security and some of the things that are going on in the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
But I think that we're doing 15 million people a year online,
Wow.
and
Wow.
so that's a lot. Our analytics are even getting bigger. That's how we ended the year, 15 million, and we're just doing bigger and more now. So I think we're at about 35. I think we're at 5 million people a month coming into our website. So it's a massive website. We have a number of servers that support it because one goes down for some reason. It happens to be in Austin, Texas. We have one in Minneapolis, just in case. We have a lot of software on those servers to protect from
Mhm.
being attacked. And so, yeah, our online business is a big part of what we do, and I like the print though. I like feeling the print in my hands. I like just feeling that this just came in today. This just came in today, and along with we just finished this up, and Jason Montague from the cruise lines, and yeah, you have a few there too, huh?
I got, hey, I
Not
understand,
me.
and I get the, I get the, and look, we link a lot to y'all's website, and we, every week on our weekly newsletter, we do that. But I still, every time I get my copy,
He reads it, he puts a sticky note on it, he usually rips the page out, and it's on my desk of, "Follow up with
yes,
this person. This is a good
yep,
article. Look what this
nope,
person's doing."
there's still something about the tactile, and I have Adam Vocals over here as well when he was on the executive, one of our good friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
Well,
I
it's
can,
it's exciting when you walk
yeah.
into a big corporation, maritime
Mhm.
corporation, and you see the maritime executive on a table out front. I
I
mean, to
know.
me, that's like
That's
that's
awesome.
I
why I do
I
this.
get it. I get it. Yep. We have a table out front here. I know when I go into Harvey Gulf, down the street, right there. I know they have the table. I know auto candies down down the bayou. They got it too. So
That's
well,
good.
let's do that. I think then right here was where Tidewater's office was too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
They
No, I
I
remember
I
that.
I was so impressed with Tidewater. I decided that, and Bill O'Malley and Larry Rigdon, I decided, the offshore industry is pretty interesting place. You
Yep.
build a cargo ship once every 30 years.
Yeah.
That's all the investment you want to make. All right. So the big investment has been that we want bigger ships so they can carry more cargo, so we can reduce our port cost, which means that you have to have bigger tugboats managing these bigger ships.
Hmm.
So you get these tractor tugs in there, and and then I remember that we just fought like dogs and cats, whether a twin screw tugboat or a tractor tug was the escort boat that
Uh-huh.
was needed on an oil tanker. And we went through those big debates in San Francisco, and it came out that a tractor tug, I put the bollard pull, do a 360,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
keep the ship off the rocks or off a bridge. And so they won. And I was on the twin screw side, arguing that twin screws were
Yeah.
just as viable. And I was on a big debate with tractor tug people from Bay and Delta, Steve Ware, and good, good, smart people. They were pilots in San Francisco Harbor, so they knew. And they brought in the tractor tugs, the first tractor
Well,
tugs in San Francisco.
Ashley's always, she's just constantly telling me about the Voss Schneider and how the Voss Schneider is the actual answer there for the propulsion.
Yeah, yeah. I
Nerd alert.
Yeah.
nerd
Well,
Voigt Schneider. I remember Ellie Shaputz came to San Francisco, and he was arguing for Voigt Schneider, as was Foss Maritime,
Yeah.
that tractor tugs were the panacea for a wayward ship, and especially in
They
the San Francisco harbor.
the SOVs that Edison Schwest has built, the Eco Liberty and the Eco Edison are Voss Schneiders.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, because that station keeping capability in an efficient state
Yeah.
in a very constrained field is what they like. So, but you've been so generous with your time today. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Yeah,
It's a
thank
lot of
you.
fun talking about myself.
It's interesting to hear your side of things. We usually have either a mariner or we had an auditor, or so to see your aspect of talking to the people like we're trying to do with this is really cool.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, it's
another
all
great,
about the news. It's about information,
Correct.
and the
yeah.
people. If you provide them good information, which is why I kept the magazine. There are people that have a tremendous background that they all hide it, and
Mhm.
we get into the process of doing a magazine and doing an interview with somebody on the cover is not an easy process. It's not just
No.
asking a bunch of questions and taking a bunch of answers, and it's really delving into who they are and
Yeah.
what they're all about and how they perceive the marketplace. And those perceptions are what drive companies. They drive employment. They drive investment, and that's these are the kingdom makers, if you will, of our industry. They've invested their family's money. They've invested their family's good names. They at great risk of losing a
Yeah.
lot of money because
Yep.
oil is not and energy is not always going to be productive, and always the barrels aren't going to be always $100. They can go to $30 real quick. And so watching that growth and those people that invested in that has been pretty remarkable.
Well, I know Otto Candy's the second, God rest his soul, always said, and Otto the third has told me this, is that Otto the second had a line that $100 oil makes a lot of people look smart, and $50 oil makes a lot of people look stupid.
That's right.
Those answers are correct.
Yeah, that was out of Candy's. We pursued him and we never got him because he
I'm
was
not
like
surprised.
he's like the Schwest family. They're so secret, that
But
way.
the most underrated,
It's been
hilarious,
short.
kind people.
I'll bet.
It is sometimes to our detriment, definitely.
Yeah.
Because there's a great story to be told, and we need to tell it for the future of our industry. But thank you so much for helping us.
Yeah,
tell
my
the
pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks
you.
for inviting me.
Oh.
And when you get this done and you promote it and send it off to us, and we'll promote it to our
Awesome.
15 million people. All right.
Yay.
Will do. Well, thank you so much. Take care. Be safe.
That wraps up another episode of Maritime in America. We're proud to highlight the voices and stories that keep the American offshore industry strong. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us, and remember, the course ahead is shaped by those who step up and steer it. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your crew. Tune in every Friday for your offshore briefing, and don't miss our next full episode, dropping soon with the very special guest's Mariner's Perspective. Catch you next time.